President Trump, meanwhile, has declared emergencies in Florida, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, where the island's governor is warning that the effects of Hurricane Irma could be, in his words, catastrophic, calling the storm more dangerous than Hurricane Harvey. Joining us right now is Republican Congresswoman Jenniffer Gonzalez of Puerto Rico. Congresswoman, good to see you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. And I want to get your take on this. The director of Puerto Rico's power company is warning that Irma could leave some areas of the island without electricity for 4 to 6 months. Talk about the specific challenges Puerto Rico is facing as this storm approaches.
Yeah, one of the biggest issues that we're going to face if Irma hits Puerto Rico, as we are expecting the worst, is precisely the power grid. Our power grid is not very good at this time. The last time it was hit, it was in 1988. So that's the main problem we got, and that's one of the concerns the government of Puerto Rico got right now. One is the power grid and how we can supply electricity to all people, and the second one will be, of course, the water supply. Why? Because most of the pumps were needing electricity to get that water to our people in the island. So I think those two are the biggest concerns in terms of infrastructure. Of course, flooding, landslides because of the shore erosion may be in place. But I expect that the government of Puerto Rico that has already declared an emergency, and the President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump, already acknowledged that for Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, are taking place. I want to thank FEMA director and all the people involved in this issue, Secretary Tom Price, that are being already working with this issue before the disaster is happening to the island.
What are you telling people right now? How should people prepare for this?
Right now, the government of Puerto Rico has rehabilitated more than 150 shelters, and they're moving the people from the islands of Vieques and Culebra, that are in the eastern part of the island, and they're taking place a lot of movement from those islands to the mainland. All the shore, the northern shore, is being evacuated as we are speaking because of the flooding, and the people that are near to the sea. Of course, we are an island, so a lot of those areas are going to be affected directly, and we are expecting more than 18 inches of rain on those areas that may get a lot of flooding in the disaster.
Congresswoman, it's Kevin Kelly. We're talking about the power grid, and as I see it, the power grid is critical infrastructure, but also to our national defense. We're seeing that Pentagon has over $600 billion a year for defense budgets. Do you think it's necessary that we start focusing on the defense budget to upgrade our power grid, as well as to protect our power grid in small rural towns that can't get back online in 4 to 6 months? Isn't that part of our defense, and should be focused on that as opposed to waiting for an infrastructure bill?
I think we should take whatever measure is needed to upgrade our infrastructure. Right now, we're not just talking about Puerto Rico, we're talking about Virgin Islands, Florida, that are on the path of Irma. So you will get hit, and the infrastructure of the United States is going to be hit by this enormous hurricane that we never had before. So expectations are very high in terms of how we're going to deal with this issue. How many days are we going to be without electricity? I think those are the main issues, and for that, FEMA director and the region and people from the Department of Defense and other federal agencies are already in the island since yesterday dealing with that issues with the local government.
Yeah, but Congresswoman, there's a report out this morning that while Irma is barreling toward Puerto Rico, FEMA is going to run out of money. In fact, FEMA expected to run out of money by Friday. This is a new Bloomberg report this morning that FEMA's disaster relief fund has just over $1 billion on hand. That's less than half of the amount that was there just last week. Are you concerned that this emergency resource is actually spreading too thin?
Of course, that always is going to be a concern, but right now, today, in the House floor, we're going to address the issue for funding the emergency relief fund, and that will mean that there's going to be more than $8 billion for emergency relief for FEMA, and that money should go right away. I think this is so important that we can't mess with the people of Houston, the people who was affected by Harvey, but the same thing is going to happen with people of Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and Florida that are on the path of Irma. So the approval of that bill today in the House is important, and I encourage the Senate to do the same thing. Actually, I got conversations yesterday with Senator Marco Rubio regarding this same issue.
Yeah, well, Congresswoman, this is Don Peebles. You know, it's not unusual for Puerto Rico to get hit by storms. I'm based in Florida many times of the year, and for the last decade we had active developments in Florida. So after Hurricane Andrew took place 25 years ago this past October, South Florida imposed a South Florida building code, a totally new building code to help the destination in the region absorb the impact of these storms that come on a repeated basis. In 2005, for example, there were 4 named hurricanes that hit South Florida within a month, and then the previous year was Wilma and Katrina. What's Puerto Rico doing to prepare to survive and minimize disruption with the storm patterns that continue to hit the island?
Well, one of the main issues is that our infrastructure and building code for the island has always been to build in concrete. And that's, when you're on an island, that's the main thing to do. I mean, you got to get protected. So I think with this hurricane, we're going to see how our island is prepared to face this kind of a storm. But we may need to address also that you got a lot of people living in wooden houses. So those people are the one that we are very concerned, and the governor of Puerto Rico is asking those people to move to a shelter. But most of the people in the island live in concrete houses.
Congresswoman, really quick before you go, Cheryl Casoni, you know, of course, on the heels of the bankruptcy of Puerto Rico and the enormous amount of debt that your island is sitting on, do you have any idea of what it's going to cost in the wake of Irma once the storm has passed?
Of course, this is going to hit us directly. I mean, we are facing a devastated situation in terms of the economics of the island. So if Irma hits Puerto Rico badly, it will take a long time to recover, and that's our main concern. We got a revitalization coordinator from the Federal Oversight Board, but we need a lot of assistance. That's the reason that relief fund is so important to take in place all those recovery efforts quickly.
Well, you say you spoke with Marco Rubio. What did he have to say?
Yeah, he was very concerned about how Puerto Rico and Florida are going to be impacted by Irma, and so we were working together. As Puerto Rico has no senators elected from the island, we always reach to Senator Rubio to of course, be our voice in the Senate. And he was very concerned. He called me yesterday morning to deal with this issue, and I know the relief package that is going to be approved today in the House is important, and he was looking after that bill in the Senate.
All right, we will be watching. Congresswoman, good to see you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Congresswoman Jenniffer Gonzales there. We'll take